What if you could turn one prompt into an entire cinematic storyboard? Same characters, same vibe, perfect continuity. That's what Higgsfield Popcorn just dropped, and they're calling it the Nano Banana Killer. Hey everyone, it's Chriselle from Black Mixture. Today we're diving into Higgsfield Popcorn, the latest feature from Higgsfield AI. And honestly, it might be the most creator-friendly AI tool we've seen yet. Let's see if it really lives up to the hype. Now, Higgsfield is one of the fastest growing Gen AI companies right now, focused on making tools that put creators first. Their new feature, Higgsfield Popcorn, is basically your storyboard generator, image editor, and scene director all in one. Here's what makes it so special. You can generate complete stories with one image and a prompt, edit or replace elements seamlessly while keeping the same scene continuity. I can see why this new technology is shaking up the industry. We're not just going to show you cherry-picked results, but instead we're putting it to the test so you can see where this AI model excels, as well as where it definitely struggles. That way you can make an informed decision as to whether or not this will be useful to you or your creative work. Anyways, I'm super excited. I know you are too. All right, let's go. For this next part, I'm going to pass it off to Nate, who will show you Higgsfield's Popcorn and test it out.
Awesome. So we'll take a look at this model across real live action scenes, anime style scenes, and then finally 3D animation scenes. That way we cover a wide variety of styles, which should help us uncover if there are any gaps in the training data and what this model is capable of. Now, I've only had access to this for about a week, but I've already identified some quirks as well as some workarounds when using this tool, which I'll go over later in this video. So first up, to access Higgsfield Popcorn, I'm visiting Higgsfield's main website, which we'll link down below in that description. And then let's click on Popcorn, which is at the very top menu bar. Now it has this little free icon next to it because at the time of this recording, Higgsfield is giving away free daily generations with this tool for everyone to try out without burning through their credits. So here, when I click on it, we're taken to this screen, which shows us a pretty nice video preview of some example scenes using things like relighting scenes, product placements, consistent characters, and what we're going to be focusing on, their storyboard mode. So this is what the user interface looks like. The left-hand side, you'll see some previous generations. If you don't have any there, then it's not going to pop up. But at the bottom section here is where we can type in our prompt. And you'll see that we have these multiple options here for the modes. For the auto mode, it lets us upload up to 4 images, and then it just generates all the different scenes. In the manual mode, though, you can see that it'll let us type in exactly what happens in each specific scene. For this testing, though, I'm going to be focusing more on the auto mode because I really want to push this tool to where it's as easy to use as possible, where we're just giving it an image, a simple prompt, and then letting it expand it into an entire storyboard. The last option is the Insta Dump feature, which is a brand new feature that allows you to upload one photo and then instantly have a bunch of professional looking photos generated using that same character. So this tool is extremely powerful, so much so that we're going to cover it in another video. For this one, we're just going to be focusing on Higgsfield Popcorn because we want to make a simple idea into an entire short film by the end of this. So for this first example, we want to take a look at using a live action photo and then making an entire coherent cinematic universe out of it. For this example, I'm going to be using this photo of myself and Chriselle, which was an image that we made using ComfyUI last year for Halloween, where we're in Westworld. I'm going to right click on the image, hit copy, Control V to paste it in there. And you'll see that it allows us to upload up to 4 image references. But for this example, all I have is this one image. So I want to see how well it works with only one input image. Here for the prompt, I'm going to type in a man and a woman are in an action comedy film set in Westworld. Now, I'm not sure if it knows what Westworld is, but we'll go ahead and see how well it does with this. Let's click generate, which you'll see here says generate for free because it gives us 40 free daily credits. I'm going to leave all the other options at their defaults. So we're going to leave this with 7 results being generated. And then I'm going to leave this at 16:9, but it's also really cool to note that you have multiple aspect ratios as well as an auto option, which will automatically determine the best aspect ratio to use for this. I'm going to click on generate. Okay, so that only took about a minute and a half to generate. And here we get back our different results. Now, one thing that you're going to notice is that one of these actually came back as sensitive content restricted. So we don't actually get to see this one. But at least we have what looks to be about 6 usable different images based off of that initial input image. So here, taking a look, this is the first one that we get back. It looks pretty similar to our original input image. This is the second one where it has what looks like us smiling at each other. I think because it's leaning into that comedy. Here we have, it looks like another variation of that initial input image. Here we have a different shot or a different angle of the character. I don't really know what's going on in this scene, but it looks kind of funny. So I think it definitely nailed the comedy aspect down for this because it has generated some interesting looking scenes, different angles of the characters. It does keep most of the clothing pretty intact, where we do have Chriselle wearing the blue dress. It has me wearing the black suit with the black hat. But I will say that the quality is definitely not there compared to what the original input image was, to where if I was to zoom in on these faces, it gets pretty quirky and I don't really know what's going on with these hands. They look all messed up. But if you are someone who's just looking to get some rough ideas down, maybe this would serve as a nice base image that you can then use into another program or another tool to at least get down some of the poses or some of the different scenes as a quick rough idea without really going too deep into it. So let's go on to testing out the next scene, which is not going to be a live action, but instead we're going to be trying out a 2D anime scene. Let's go ahead and upload this image. Here we only have one image. It's Chriselle and I, me as a basketball player, Chriselle as a cheerleader, and it has this very unique anime style to it, which I think is very vibrant and poppy. Here I'll type in an anime basketball show in which the man and woman have superpowers. So I'm not really sure how well it's going to be able to take in this prompt and expand on it, but I am curious to see how it comes out. So let's go ahead and click generate. Okay, and here we get back our results. Now, this time around, we got 4 different images flagged as sensitive content, which in my own personal opinion, I'm not sure, because we just have a man and a woman with superpowers in an anime basketball show. But let's take a look at the 3 images that it did provide us back with. And the first one here, it's added in this outline. I'm assuming that's what it means by the superpowers, and maybe that's even what this glowing around my eyes is. So I will give it some credit for at least having a different angle based off of that original image that we fed it. The next image here is a pretty interesting one, to where it looks like the cheerleader pom-poms have turned into a really cool weapon, but we also have a bit of strangeness happening to where Chriselle's head is turned one way and it looks like her body is turned the other. So it's really hard for me to imagine using this image. I will give it credit though for keeping the clothing consistent down to where this is pretty much the exact same outfit down to the shoes, and even the basketball court looks pretty much the same. But yeah, just a lot of weirdness happening there with the head being turned around, almost like in a horror film. And then here for this final shot, we have a close-up of my face. It's given me what looks like a mini nose ring there, and then it's really leaned in heavy on these glowing squiggly lines underneath my eyes, which I'm assuming is just the way that it interpreted having superpowers. So maybe we found a gap here in the training data to where it doesn't really understand too well how to make characters have superpowers. This could also be an issue with the way that I'm prompting it. So don't worry if you're not a fan of these results just yet. We're also going to be trying out some more expanded prompts, ones created using ChatGPT, and then we're going to compare those results versus the ones that I'm just feeding it off of the top of my head right now. Before we get into that, let's take a look at the final example here now, which is going to be using a 3D animation style. So here we're going to upload another image. And this image that we're going to upload is a mech robot. It's one that we created using Comfy UI, and it has all of these different elements that I want to check to see how specific this model is able to keep everything intact while making this character in a different scene. I'll type in a prompt, which is a mech robot fights dragons in a destroyed city. I'll click generate. Okay, and here we've gotten back now our results, and this time around we have none of the images being flagged for sensitive content. So it looks like for 3D animation style content, it might be a winner here, because we get back already. I can tell from these thumbnails that these are looking much better than some of our earlier results. So here we can see we have a wide angle shot with this mech robot in the middle of a destroyed city. Some of the details are a little bit lost if you look in too closely, but when we go over to the next frame, we get to see the mech robot now in a much closer medium shot, and it looks like we have a dragon coming up from behind him. And then here we also have what looks to be a medium close-up shot. And I think this one is definitely a winner when it comes to keeping all of those details intact, specifically having this glowing blue middle section here, all of the different gaskets and all of the different screws and the very specific way that head is shaped, as well as these really specific yellow rectangles on the arms. I remember all of these details, and I love that the AI model popped this back out with our character now in a different setting, the destroyed city, and it has a really great composition. So this is probably my favorite shot so far out of the whole bunch. And then here we have now a shot of the dragon, but now we also have our mech robot in the foreground. And then here on the right side, we have multiple mech robots. And this looks almost like a PlayStation 1 video game. So that might be a little bit biased as to where it got its information from. But over here for this next shot, this one looks again amazing. All of the details there are still retained. And I'm starting to notice a pattern here to where when we have multiple characters in the scene, it seems like the model struggles a bit. But when we have only one character in the scene, it does a much better job. Take a look at this close-up shot. This one looks really, really good. So as a bit of a recap, we tried out live action scenes with multiple characters, multiple races, and then we also tried out a 2D animation style scene with multiple characters. But then for the final scene, we had one character and we get a much better result across the board. Most of the time when using AI tools, it will typically work better when you have a prompt that has been expanded or at least generated by using another tool. So here, let's go ahead and copy over a prompt now. I want to show you what happens when we're using an expanded prompt and also giving multiple reference images, because if you're not getting the results that you're liking, this might be a trick that's actually going to help you out to get much better results. So here I have a mech robot dragon, which is the character that I want our mech robot to fight. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in as an additional reference. So now we have two different references, and I will keep the prompt a mech robot fights a dragon, and let's do a mech dragon in a destroyed city. And then I'm going to copy this prompt, and then I'll go over to ChatGPT and I'll say expand this prompt for image generation, and I'll paste in my prompt, and then I'll also say here's some reference images, and then I'm going to give it the exact same reference images that we were using before. Okay, so here we have a massive mech robot battles a ferocious mech dragon amidst a destroyed futuristic cityscape. And it goes on and on. Let's go ahead and then just copy and paste this in. Now, you'll notice since we're using multiple reference images that we can only get back 6 results because the 7th and the 8th one is taken up by our reference images. Here are the results that we get back. Now, already taking a look at this, I can tell that it has used the exact dragon that we gave it as its initial prompt, and it looks pretty nice to see it now in a destroyed cityscape. Then we still have that same mech robot that we originally had as well. And then when combining those two characters together, we get a much better result than the one from previously. And wow, all of these scenes look pretty impressive and definitely something that is much more usable than what we were getting back in our first examples. So if you are looking to get better results, I think definitely having more references helps, as well as having a prompt that is more refined using an LLM, which you can use something like ChatGPT, Gemini, or pretty much anything to help out with your prompt. So what can you do with your storyboard that's generated? What's really cool is that we have this button here in the bottom right-hand corner, which says animate, and this will instantly take that same image, pop it over now into the video tab for Higgsfield, and we can then select any model that we want, a prompt, and generate a video based off of that. Now you'll see here that in testing this previously, I got back a lot of sensitive content, restricted content detected, even though, again, all of my prompts were nothing that was NSFW. It just seems that they have very strict policies when it comes to using sensitive content and really making sure that people aren't generating things that they're not supposed to be. So for this example, though, I don't think we should get any issues. And I'm going to click on the model section here, which by default uses Higgsfield Lite, but there are so many different models that are available to where you can even use the latest models like Hilo 2.3 as well as using OpenAI's Sora 2, and they have multiple versions of it from just the base model to where they even have a version called Sora 2 Pro Max. Very, very interesting to see. And then they even have models like WAN 2.5. So for this example, I'm going to click on the OpenAI Sora 2, and let's try out their Sora 2 Pro Max model. And here I'll type in the prompt, which for this scene, I'm imagining the mech dragon flies towards the camera while breathing fire that engulfs the entire scene. And then let's click generate. You also get multiple options for generating. You can change the duration, the resolution amount, as well as the aspect ratio. So a lot of fine-tuned controls, which is one of the reasons why I like using Higgsfield, is because they build their tools with creators in mind. So if you've ever used Sora 2 before, you'd know that really it doesn't let you fine-tune your results, and you're pretty much just forced to accept whatever it gives you. Whereas using a tool like Popcorn to first make a storyboard and then going into each scene and being able to set very specific things like the duration, the resolutions, aspect ratios, as well as the prompts, you're getting much more control over this, which I think creators are definitely going to appreciate. It is definitely a helpful starting ground. So while we're waiting for that one to finish, I want to show you these earlier examples that we did using some of those scenes. So here we use Higgsfield Lite, which is not the best model available, but it does let you get some pretty decent scenes pretty quickly. And here we have this walking scene from the Westworld shot earlier. And then over here we have an anime scene. And this one also came out pretty interesting, where we have Chriselle holding these pom-poms up and the camera moving around her. Here is another example scene in which we have a real photo of us posing in front of this YouTube sign. I think this one definitely came out pretty decent. Here is another example image, and then it also zooms out, and it's pretty cool that it creates this entire background scene. And then this was another example using Popcorn in which we tried to create a romantic comedy film. And here we have us walking through the streets. Here we also have me laughing while handing Chriselle 2 cups of coffee for some reason. Here's another one though that ended up coming out pretty well, where we have this character turning and then declaring I'm not real, which was all written in the prompt, and he actually says the exact line.
I am not real.
So that's pretty cool to test out. Okay, so here we've gotten back this generation, and let's take a look at it. Okay, I think that one did an amazing job. We have the dragon flying towards the camera, breathing fire, and it engulfs the entire scene. And what's really cool, since we are using Sora 2, is that we also get audio generated with this. So pretty awesome, and I can already imagine this being extremely helpful for going from an idea to an actual finished product relatively quickly. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to try this out for yourself, there's going to be a link down in that description box. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you in the next one. Until next time, all right, peace. Whoosh.